Well, good afternoon, everybody. Darren Saul here, your host of Saul Searching, the Saul Recruitment Podcast, episode 21. And I have the lovely Estelle Coombe-Heath with me today. How are you, Estelle?
Hi, Darren. Well, and you?
Very well. Thank you so much for joining me. And for everybody out there, we're going to be tackling something very interesting: emotional eating while working from home. So this is something that even I've done for sure. We've all done it. And Estelle is the #1 authority in helping people overcome binge and overeating using her signature quit binge eating formula. From a background in business analytics, Estelle now leads various programs on changing mindsets around eating and healthy food choices. She supports her clients to cultivate healthy eating habits and to build trust with food. As a holistic health coach, Estelle infuses yoga, mindfulness, and energy medicine into her consultations. Passionate about holistic health, she sees yoga as a therapy for the mind and soul, considering herself fortunate to facilitate yoga experiences. Estelle's sessions encourage clients to dive into the self-transformation that health practices like positive mindset, yoga, and meditation can provide. So welcome to the show, Estelle.
Thank you so much. I'm
Pleasure.
excited to be here.
Oh, me too. Now, let's jump in. I kind of want to get a bit of an insight into how you got into this area in the first place. So maybe give us a little bit of a backstory and paint us a picture as to, and then we'll
Oh,
move forward.
excellent. Yeah. I love sharing this because this is why I'm here today. Um, about 13 years ago, my health journey started. I was in the corporate environment, working 15 to 18-hour days. I lived off coffee and cigarettes during the day, and I'd get home and I would just binge eat already from like it was so many years ago. And unfortunately, that was a habit that really stuck with me for a very long time. And 2007, I got engaged with my partner, and I decided I just didn't want to be going through life in such an unhealthy way. So I decided to kind of get on a healthy lifestyle, start eating healthy, started running.
Nice.
I quit smoking.
Right.
Unfortunately, I couldn't do anything about the long working hours. So stress was kind of always there for me. However, I did start feeling better in making those small little decisions and making those small little steps along the way. However, emotional eating was still quite a big part of my life. And, at the time I didn't realize that it was a reaction to my stress levels and my emotions.
Yeah.
I wasn't very good at expressing my emotions. So I usually used either cigarettes or food for that. And yeah, but slowly but surely, I started feeling healthier. I got to see a bit of health benefits on that. I was previously slightly overweight. I lost a little bit of weight. And the minute I saw the weight loss results, I decided, well, this is just like, I just need to be thin to be healthy.
Nice.
So my health journey went from, concern for my health into an obsessive relationship with exercise and food. I started being very restrictive came to food, and I started running up to 60 to 100 kilometers a week, including gym workouts.
Oh my God.
I was an ultra marathon runner, but like whatever I did, I always came back to emotional eating. And it would go for a couple of months where I was okay, and then a couple of weeks later, a full-out blowout binge would happen. Right. So that carried on for many years, and eventually I decided, well, I wanted to dig deeper in my journey of health. I wanted to help other women or other people actually not struggle through the same thing I was going through. And that's when I started exploring how I could help others break free of those negative patterns.
Nice, nice. So it's kind of like an all or nothing mindset. I mean, what's your
Yes.
definition of binge eating? What's the definition of emotional eating?
Yeah, very good question, actually. So emotional eating is, if by definition, is termed every time you eat when you are not hungry.
Right. Okay.
And binge eating is often when you eat large amounts of foods for a long period of time. But both of those cases are linked to the feelings of guilt and shame afterwards.
Okay. And is it always stress that triggers it, or are there many things that trigger it? That might be guilt, stress. I mean, you'd probably be able to tell us what are some of the main triggers of emotional eating.
Excellent question. Yes. So it's funny that you ask that, because we often think of just the negative emotions,
Mm-hmm.
but there's loneliness, boredom.
Yep.
Like the great example is the girl in the movies who gets broken up with, and you see her on the binge with the ice cream and the wine, and she wakes up from this food coma.
Yeah.
So there's broken relationships, but also happy emotions. We celebrate using food. We have always been brought up with celebrations of food. We were rewarded as little kids. Get an injection, get a lolly.
Yeah.
Did well at school. I don't know about you, but I was taken out for dinner or like ice cream. So.
Yeah, and even me, like I know that, I've got a big family barbecue or a family event or something. Oh, I'm going to eat lots that day. Like you associate food with fun and happiness and good times.
Yeah, and that's absolutely normal. Food tastes amazing.
Mm. Yeah. So I suppose we'll come into that a little bit later on as to how we regulate that and how we, what are some of the management tools that we can use to make sure that that doesn't become an issue. But before we get into that, I just want to get a sense of what have you seen in this time during COVID, when everybody's in lockdown, a lot of people are in lockdown, people are working from home more, they're in front of Zoom, in front of the computer, they're 2 steps away from their fridge. So what have you seen in terms of the patterns of eating in this time?
Yeah, I've definitely seen everyone I speak to has said that, they have found themselves over snacking when it comes to working from home. There's even terms in the industry now called, they used to have in the US, like the freshman 15.
Yep.
They now call it the COVID 15.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's, is something that was possibly something that was already there for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we might have actually found that now it's just because you're at home all the time, you're constantly snacking.
Yeah.
But what I've dug into deeper with some of the clients and some of the people that I speak to on a regular basis about this is, was this like an issue when you were on holiday? And the answer is usually yes. Like people always feel that they're going to blow out on holiday. Is it an issue on the weekends? And the answer is yes. So the comfort eating was already kind of there. We just didn't notice it as much because we were out from the house. And when we're out from the house, we tend to be in front of other people a lot more. So we're not going to be seen shoving food down our face all the time. We also, in formal meetings where you can't eat, where now you put yourself, like switch off the camera, put yourself on mute, sneak in a sandwich. One thing I have really noticed as well is people are working a lot more since they're working from home. They don't have to commute to work anymore. However, I don't know what it is. it could be that their load is so much larger because of, looking after, kids and possibly responsible for homeschooling, that kind of thing, that they start logging on earlier to possibly get some more work in. But then they get sucked in, as you do, you get sucked into the day, and the next minute, it's like 1 o'clock.
Absolutely.
So, again, we're not having little breaks in the day. We don't have movements. That all adds a little bit of stress in the body. And, when the body feels uncomfortable, we're going to crave sugary things to eat because the body thinks, oh, I need to run, from danger. So there is that. But one of the biggest things that's been driving overeating, whether you're working from home or not during the COVID period, is fear.
Right.
We have been put in such a massive space of uncertainty.
So true.
And, our basic human rights is, or, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, our basic needs is safety and security. And during uncertain times, no one feels secure.
Right. That's so interesting. I never really put the two together. So straight away, what do you do when you feel insecure, you're not sure what's happening? Let's reach for some food.
Let's reach for some food.
Yeah.
Because the food, as we've known since we were little kids or babies, is comforting.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of fires off different hormonal reactions in the body, and we kind of feel distracted from what's going on for a moment. And for some that's fine. It's okay to sometimes find that distraction, but then others start feeling guilt straight afterwards, or I shouldn't have eaten that, or that kind of thing. So yeah.
Wow. Like I heard that obviously things that are high, like things that are generally not great for us, like the sugary stuff and whatnot, they release serotonin. Is that right? Which is the feel-good hormone.
Yes.
What about savory things? Do they release serotonin as well, or they release other chemicals, other neurotransmitters?
It depends. Savory cravings is usually a sign of dehydration.
Okay.
But savory cravings has actually been linked to anxiety. And yeah, so it's definitely, I'm not sure 100% behind the science behind that, but it has to do with the just the comfort we feel in those savory foods.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you that overeating and binge eating doesn't have to always mean sugary stuff. It can be savory as well. Yeah.
It could be anything. And there's a lot of women that I work with who are in the health industry, and like me, they become overly obsessive with eating healthy.
Yeah.
So they find themselves binging on nuts or binging on peanut butter, those kind of things. And it's because they've made their eating variety so restrictive. And unfortunately, our main survival mode kicks in when we restrict ourselves around food. And we will find ourselves binging on even healthy stuff.
Yeah. Wow. And now emotional eating, do you think that that's something that can be cured, or is it something that we just manage forever? We know that we have what's the word? We have an affiliation to it, and we have to keep it under control, or is it something that you can eradicate or change your neural pathways forever?
You can definitely change your neural pathways, but unfortunately, you're going to have to change everyone's neural pathways around you to 100% not emotionally eat. Because as I mentioned before, we emotionally eat when we celebrate with that birthday cake, and that glass of champagne or wine. We emotionally eat when we celebrate achievements, all those kind of things.
Well, culture's built around it.
We built around it. So, and it's been ingrained since we were babies. As a baby, you feel an emotion, don't know what it is, you cry. Mum goes, well, what do I do with this child? She must be hungry. Yeah. You get this milk, it's sweet, it's delicious, all of a sudden you forget about it, So from then, we have been conditioned to, food's part of our life. So, and the more we try and control food, because that's what we do next, we go, oh, emotional eating, I need to control my food, I need to cut out sugars, I need to cut out carbohydrates, I need to only eat, whatever the latest industry
superfood is,
eating
or whatever.
superfoods are. And when we do that, we will trigger more emotional eating, because then actually we become anxious around food, and that anxiety drives more eating. So yes, we can try and rewire our brain, but it's not rewiring it around the emotional eating, it's rewiring it around understanding when we emotionally eat.
Gotcha.
So it's a check-in when we do find ourselves at the snack cupboard every 5 minutes while working from home. Like, am I really hungry? Did I forget to eat today? Because that can also trigger overeating. If we don't nourish ourselves properly, it will also end up in a binge later on. So it's really figuring out and using emotional eating as a kind of I like to kind of rewire the thinking into, it's a signal that something is out of balance, instead of, oh, that's the enemy, I'm doing it again, what's happening.
So I like that. So it's really self-awareness, understanding what we're doing, and then trying to manage ourselves and our response to whatever emotion we're going through.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, love it. So, I mean, I'd love to know more about how you work with people, and what are some of the steps that people can take to, limit emotional eating, or, can self-regulate in a way.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So usually I work with my clients one-on-one, where I kind of dig deep into, first of all, healing that relationship with food. That's the basis. Understanding whether you are being nourished enough with what you are eating. Because if we don't get that part right, whatever we do, if we try and solve emotional issues and the basic need of, again, food and security around food is not solved, we're always going to be in that stuck kind of loop. So we start there. Once we've got that foundation going, then we can go deeper into healing old emotional wounds, healing habits that keep us in emotional eating or binge eating cycles, as well as hidden beliefs that often drive us into eating patterns for many years.
So it's really dealing with some of those subconscious psychological issues as well. Yes,
absolutely. And it's quite interesting how many aha moments I get from my clients when they're like, oh yeah, that's why, Obviously, there's a lot to be said about people who struggle with anxiety and anxiety around food. We work around that as well. So that answers how I kind of work in a step-by-step way in getting to the bottom of those issues. By the time my clients are finished with me, they are not on a restrictive eating plan. They can still enjoy a piece of cake or their celebratory wine. But they are still also, their bodies are telling them more what they need. So their bodies are saying, I need a salad and that kind of thing. It's a really interesting process to see how we can actually start connecting back to our bodies and, follow our instinct in what to eat.
Absolutely. And how long does it generally, the process take? I mean, obviously everybody's different, but would you say it takes a good 2 to 3 months to build those new habits, or?
Yes, absolutely. So on average, I work with my clients for 12 to 16 weeks. Okay. Usually the results I can see is about 6 weeks in, I usually we break the habit of binge eating.
Wow, nice.
So clients will come to me binge eating either 2 to 3 times a week, some every day, some more than once a day. And yeah, like most cases, 6 weeks is where we break those habits, and that's where clients just go, oh, I didn't binge this week. It was fantastic. I don't know what you did.
Wow.
And I'm like, it was you. I just guided you along the way.
Nice.
And once we've got that ready, it's about practicing that non-binge eating. I always call it a muscle. It's like we've been doing one thing for so long, and this is where habit comes in, that it's actually automatic. And if we've been comforting ourselves with food automatically for many years, it's about practicing not doing that every day and every day and every day.
Yep.
And that's why we keep going, because mishaps can still happen, and some people just like need that extra support as well. So yeah.
So true. And I suppose that's where the neural pathways come in, that after a while you can try and reset and build new neural pathways around your association with food.
Yes, absolutely. Like I need to do, or we have to do a lot of work around the fears of food.
Yeah.
Because if you are in the cycle of emotional eating, when you get into a situation where there's food around, it's the internal dialogue that happens can be so loud. So it's and that's there where I start working with my clients fundamentally and saying, well, you are not that urge, is the term that we use for overeating, that drives us to overeat.
Yeah.
And it does take a little bit of time, but eventually that we can retrain that neural pathway.
Okay, awesome. I mean, I don't want to go into your whole work process, but I'd love 1 or 2 steps in the process. Like, do you get people to do a log of what they've eaten that week? How do you get them to kind of stop engaging in that process and falling into that trap?
Yeah, very good question. So funny enough, food logging and calorie counting is one of the top things that actually cause people to end up binge eating as well.
Interesting.
So yes, I work with food logs, but usually just for the first couple of weeks, just to understand where they are triggered with food. But also, I'm not interested in the calories or what they ate. I'm interested in how that food affected their bodies, and I my signals are looking at whether how soon after a meal were you hungry again, what kind of cravings set off after that meal, what was your mood like,
how did you feel after you ate that meal, and
how
did you feel just before?
Exactly. So from that I can actually guide them into saying, well, you're not eating enough, and that's why in the evenings you are binge eating, or that meal you're having at breakfast is not sustaining you, and that's why you dreaming of pastries while sitting at your desk at 10 a.m. in the morning.
Yep, I've done that before. And what about like when people are, they have a stressful day and they just want to come home and reach for the ice cream, reach for the wine, reach for the chocolate bar? What do you do? Reach for the packet of Tim Tams. How do you kind of stop them from saying, okay, maybe just have one? Is that the limit?
It all just depends on, and this is where I teach my clients to be more leaning onto their intuition. It's not about a discipline where you're like, oh, you can have some, but you can only have one. Okay. So it's really indulging mindfully and understanding that when I have that Tim Tam, how did it make me feel? Mm-hmm. If I have a second one, am I starting to feel slightly sick, or am I satisfied now? And we can't do that when we are so overbeared with food thoughts and the urges to overeat.
Yeah. So interesting. It's really about understanding ourselves and how food is affecting our mood and our internal dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, lots of food for thought. Mind the pun. Now, Estelle, I love to hear case studies and stories. So I don't want you to obviously mention any names, but
Yeah.
can you give us an insight into, an example of how you might have guided somebody through a process and all of a sudden they're a changed person?
Yes, absolutely. So one of my clients came to me early January, February. She was she had she had nowhere else to go. She said, Estelle, like, I can't go through this anymore. My health is suffering. She had she was struggling with an autoimmune disease as well, but she also had high anxiety. So that was really just driving her to binge almost every single day. So what we worked with her was, like I said in the beginning, getting that stability, the food foundation right. Simultaneously with her, I had to start working on her anxiety levels as well, immediately, just to help her break, just get a little bit of relief from that anxiety. And once we did that, we uncovered many beliefs that kind of stuck with her for many years. And those made her feel really bad about herself. And we were able to break through those and lead her into healthier habits around food. She stopped binge eating in week 7.
Wow.
And yeah, she was just amazed. She went on a family holiday in week 11, and she said usually that would just absolutely cause binge eating all the time. But she came back and she's like, there was nothing. Like, yeah, just such an amazing case. I had another. I can go on about this forever, so just stop me if I've said too much. But I've worked with a couple of women who have recovered from eating disorders such as bulimia and anorexia. And often when they start healing that need to be so thin, or control their weight at a very low level, they do end up binge eating because the body's like, well, I'm getting food. I don't know when else I'm going to get this food. I'm going to make the most of it.
Absolutely.
So a couple of cases of them, they were actually unconsciously waking up in the middle of the night and binge eating. And that is how the body is so strong in surviving that if you are going to starve it, it's going to actually make a way to eat. And whether it has to do that while you're sleeping.
I never thought that was possible. No way.
And it's just amazing how when we started adjusting certain things for those clients, how that behavior just kind of went. And, I catch up with them regularly, find out how they're doing, and it's still not an issue. So yeah, crazy ways our bodies will,
I can imagine,
survive us.
Fantastic, amazing work. And and I'd love to know how you integrate yoga and those type of energy therapies into this process.
Yeah, good question. So yoga was one of the therapies that really helped me connect to my body.
Yep.
Because it really is a practice of that mindfulness, connecting movement with breath.
Yep.
It really allowed me to slow down.
Yep.
And that is, if you in a busy mind space, and you'll never be able to connect back into your emotions.
Yeah.
Because you're just in that thought pattern.
Yeah.
So yoga is one of the tools that I used to connect back with my body. I use the movement-based practice to do that. But eventually, I've taken on some of the other practices, part of yoga, which is the meditation, breath exercises, and often. If my client comes to me and she is just having like a breakdown, I'd first help her move. Like she wouldn't have been dressed for the yoga for yoga. I'm just like, I don't care. We're going to move a little bit just to get you back into your body and just slow down. There's often where I give them a yoga class to go do afterwards, just to help connect. But then also a lot in my sessions, I actually use breath work. I use some meditations. We use visualizations. And yeah, many of those tools come in quite handy to actually start managing those overactive food thoughts and behaviors.
So it's really, it sounds like you use those practices to open up the channels for self-awareness, to allow you to really self-regulate better.
Yeah. And we all have different ways of getting there, and yoga was just one of the ways that I got there. Okay. There's a lot to be said about our energetic body as well. And often I've had some clients where I'm like, okay, we'll just do a bit of an energy clearing there as well, because the energy body holds our emotions a lot as well.
Oh, fantastic, Estelle. Well, I mean, that's fascinating. If people want to get in touch with you to learn more about how you might be able to help them, what's the best way for them to do that?
Beautiful. You can get in touch with me via my website, wholesomelifestyleproject.com. I also have a dedicated Facebook group for binge and emotional eaters. It's called Food Freedom for Binge and Emotional Eaters on Facebook. Just type that into the search bar. You'll find the link. Or Instagram, also Wholesome Lifestyle Project.
Perfect. And I'm going to put all the links to that in the show notes for everybody. But that is, fascinating stuff, because I love to dive into anything related to internal dialogue and how it affects our day-to-day lives. And eating is a perfect example of, what we say to ourselves, subconsciously or consciously, of how that manifests in the real world. Fascinating. Now, I always like to ask my guest one last question before we leave. And I'd like to ask you today, for all the people out there that are still stuck at home, still going to be doing a lot more work in this new post-COVID, I'll put that in inverted commas, hopefully. What would be a great tactic or, strategy for them to kind of just keep their eating on track while they're doing more and more work at home?
Absolutely. So I think, while working from home, making sure that you're prepared. So if you want to be eating healthier and you want to avoid a lot of that snacking, make sure that you are, do some meal prep, just to make sure that you get the right things into your body. Because you're at home, it's easy to actually whiz up a veggie juice or a smoothie or something like that to just add. So if you've had a little bit of a snack attack, and you just want to feel a little bit blah, you can always just take a 5-minute break and make yourself a nice little smoothie, that kind of thing. In saying that, make sure that you keep chopped fruits and veggies in the freezer for that. Keep your fruits handy so you can snack on those. I would say also plan for some snacking. Make sure that you have a snack on standby, whether it's once a day where you allow yourself a Tim Tam, or where you have a small little pack of something that's savory, if savory is your thing, just so that you feel like you get that comfort out of the food anyway, and you don't feel deprived. I think deprivation, it can be so triggering. Making sure that you are hydrated. Because I don't know what it is, but because we're sitting at home at our desks, it's almost like no excuse to get up. So no one's coming around saying, hey, let's go grab a tea. You're not getting up to go to a meeting room. So we're just sitting a lot more. And then for me, movements, often cravings can come because the body is tired, and we haven't moved a lot. So the muscles feel like tight, sore. We don't notice that we're feeling that pain, but the body's saying, hey, I need some sugar because I'm feeling pain. You might not notice it, but I need some comfort here.
Maybe just stand up, do a couple of just move a little bit, just connect with yourself again, as you say, and put yourself
Yeah,
in a different mindset.
yeah, definitely.
Love it. Well, Estelle, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was fantastic. And I hope you've given everybody a lot to think about and a lot of strategies and tactics and, how to understand their relationship with food.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Oh, my pleasure. So everybody out there, hope you had a great show. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Feel free to catch up with Estelle. I'll put all the links in the show notes. And we'll see you very, very soon for another episode. Bye for now. Thanks again, Estelle.
Thank you. Bye.